Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
Welcome to another race analysis. This is another Norwood Cycling Club Tuesday night Criterium. We're back. The track, as you can see, is filthy. We've had the supercars on here, and this is the first week back after the break. Last weekend was the Port Adelaide Dockside Criterium with all of the crashes, but hopefully today on Victoria Park Circuit we'll get away without any mishaps, and I'm not foreshadowing anything at all. It was a windy day, not massive, but there was enough wind to keep it interesting. I'd been on a 60k ride this morning, so my legs were absolutely cooked, and so the best thing I thought was to attack right off the gun. More of a joke than anything else. Peter Burgess decided he was going to take it up, but when he went past I had nothing left and sat up, giggled a bit and sat down. Jumping into the end of lap 6, it has been really hard and fast. My heart rate's still up at 175. But everyone's been going really hard, and so when this little move goes, it kind of slows up for a bit. I move up towards the front, and then a little move goes up on the left, and I decide to go with it. I think by this point in the race I decided that I was going to be just going with moves, making moves. I wasn't going to be there at the end for a sprint, I didn't think. My legs were way too cooked from the week. So I was planning to have a bit of fun. 2 or 3 or 4 of us went across. Number 250, 2 wheels ahead of me, Robert Hibbett, and 064, new to B grade, Matthew Hewson. Robert was doing a massive job when he blew up. I took it up, jumped in for a slingshot behind, I think this is Robert Reed there, and then just put the power down all the way to the bottom corner. Now something I've really been working on this course is hitting this bottom corner with as much speed as possible and really committing to the turn. It's a bit tricky when there's someone else in the corner, but going around the outside of, I think this is Ella Simpson, I managed to come by with a bit of speed. I yelled at her to get on and then just sort of laid back off the power a bit until I thought she was on the wheel. I was looking back, yeah, you can see me looking back over my shoulder a little bit, trying to make sure that someone's in my wheel. I did not want to do this by myself. Well, okay, let's be honest. There was no way that I was going to do this by myself. I probably needed a group of 5 if there was going to be any possibility of this going all the way to the end. Coming through the start-finish line, I think I flicked the elbow. Nothing happened. I flicked the elbow again and looked back, and she said, I can't. I put the power back on again, but very quickly realised my heart rate's at 192. Thinking I was going to be solo for a bit, there was no point pushing on. However, Ella got back on my wheel. She was keeping an eye on the field behind, and she yelled out to keep going because there was a big gap. So, the sucker that I am, I hit the gas again, tried to peg it just a bit above threshold, and just to see what I can do. Now, at this point, we actually had a pretty big gap. It was a bridgeable gap, and I know a lot of people in the field would have been capable of bridging it, though I was kind of hoping at just sort of keeping it close enough that people would bridge, but not inviting the whole field back onto our wheel. So I'm just sort of sitting at low VO2. At this point, though, I've been on the front for just about the whole lap. Heart rates, again, in the 190s, 193, which is that's pretty close to my max heart rate. Once again, hit the corner. I take this corner well, pedal early, and I think I did flick the elbow here, and Ella comes through. But there's really not enough people in this. There's no way this is going to the end, but I'm committed to it at this point, so we'll see how it goes. So Ella's turn takes us through to the start-finish line. I'm still having to work pretty hard on her wheel. My heart rate's got up to 195, which I think was the max for this race. But it's enough recovery that I do come around for a second pull or a third pull or whatever. And fortunately, as we're coming around this corner, I see a few people are finally managing to bridge across. Unfortunately, though, the people who did bridge across didn't come through, and so I ended up sort of sitting at threshold for a bit and then dropping it down into tempo, trying to get someone else to pull through. And I think I ended up taking this just about all the way through to the bottom corner again. Here we go. Robert Hibbett, who did that big pull a bit earlier in the video, he comes through and finally gets on the front. He takes a really poor line through the corner, though, and you can see that I've managed to make my way up next to him just by rolling through. I'm not doing any serious power yet. What I should have done is just got right on his wheel and let him do it all. When he does eventually kick on, I slot in behind Ella again. And this is probably not ideal because I know Ella's cooked. I know she didn't have another pull in her half a lap ago. and unfortunately here she does drop the wheel, which, considering I'm doing over threshold sitting third wheel, she must be pulling a lot of power ahead of me, and then as the wheel goes, I take a bit of a sprint to try to make it up to Robert. But I really did not have the legs to go with him again after all the work I'd done on the front. And I ended up sitting up and waiting for the pack a bit, which didn't really work. There were a couple of people jumping across after Robert, when I didn't have the legs to go with them. And then when Ella came through again, the pack behind us was really just, barely moving. I didn't want those guys to get too far ahead. I didn't see that people were actually as close behind me as they were. And so, like an idiot, I got back on the front and hit the gas again. At this point in the race, I had decided that I wasn't going to be going for the win. I was definitely in this for a workout, nothing else. But this wasn't racing smart at this point. I should have slotted back in and tried to find the biggest bunch and get them working instead. Again, people 164 up there, he's going up the road. I don't have the legs to match those surges, so I really need to sit in and recover. And finally, coming around this corner, I let a few more people pass me and jump in the wheels. Not that being in the wheels was particularly restful. The group had really picked up the pace, and I'm sitting at threshold just about every time we come around through the start-finish. And this top corner was no different. People were really punching into this corner, and I'm having to do a lot of work just to stay in the wheels. We're a lap later, and even though I'm sitting right in the middle of the pack, I'm still doing 300 watts and more. So I can only imagine what the people at the front were doing. And there were still people up the road. So we're a few laps later, and a pretty serious attack is just going off the front right now. We're coming down the back straight, and this is down a slightly downhill into this corner. And so the pace was up a bit on some of the previous laps, and you can see some of the riders ahead of me completely getting this corner wrong and going off course. Coming back on that in slow motion, and looks like with the rider who's just in the front of that gap just straightens up, decides not to take the turn, runs himself off the road and takes 3 or 4 people with him. I don't know what caused that. It might have been the fastest time we did that corner, but that's about it. Anyway, coming out of that little incident, nobody lets the pace off. Fortunately, I'm pretty close to Kanane's wheel, and he does a lot of the work closing this little gap that opens up. 095 in the blues, blowing up a little bit. And Kanane does a big effort to get across. He then sprints across. I can see that they've stopped pedaling up ahead, so I take the foot off the gas a little bit and take a slightly easier run into the back of the group, saving a match perhaps. But even so, that was a hard effort to get back. And things settle down quietly for a little bit. Yeah, lol, just kidding. I don't think I really come off the gas again for just about the rest of this race. So I can see at this point that there's a move gone off the front and it's looking pretty strong, and so I am going to try to get on the back of anything that's going across. I really realised pretty quickly that I can't just sit at the back of this group, because although there might be a few people willing to work, inevitably there's going to be a few people who are just going to let wheels go. So I try to come round on the inside to get closer to the front so that I can jump across, or at least go with anyone who does. Unfortunately, I get stuck behind Sophie here and have to jump to the right. And then this is an all or nothing effort. I can see Timmy Decker ahead of me is pulling in some massive watts, jumping across. I want to be on his wheel, but I am cooked. So this is a bit of a last-ditch effort to try to get to his wheel. I take the corner pretty well. I'm back on the gas quickly, and I'm just about there, and finally I make it across. And this is really a race-defining moment for me, because getting onto Tim Decker's wheel as he is motoring across this gap towards a bunch that's really strong up the front. If I get across to this, I can absolutely recover a little bit, except Timmy Decker just puts in one last dig. Instead of going across at the same power he was doing, he just chucks an extra 200 watts in, closes that gap, and I did not have anything left to recover and to respond to that. And so he makes it across to that front group. I was within meters. I was in half a second of getting onto that group when my legs blew. And I'll give you the hot tip. Timmy Decker makes it across and he wins the race today. So that was the move. That was the wheel that I had to be on. And unfortunately, a lap ago, I just had a little bit too much traffic trying to get through. and I missed being on Tim's wheel when he went, and I had to spend a lot of energy getting across. And that meant that when he did that final effort that closed the gap, I wasn't there, and that's all she wrote. Now, I've been sitting at threshold at this point, and even so, Alistair comes past in the pink like an absolute freight train. He knows that that's the move to be in. He realises he's missed it, and he is determined to get across to it. When he does come past, I'm too wrecked to make it, so I have to let quite a few wheels go before I have enough to get back up to speed. But then through this corner, I can usually take a smooth enough line and get back on the gas early enough that I can get back in the bunch. I'm at 190 beats a minute, so I'm absolutely on the rivet right now. But with the work that Alistair's been doing on the front, this group is making some serious headway into that gap to the guys up the front. But at least now I'm back in a group. There's motivation on the front. We're making some headway. Hopefully I can recover a little bit, and then hopefully this group brings the front of the race back. Alistair in the pink, who's been doing so much work on the front to keep this group motivated, he comes back and says, they're coming back. There's a couple of guys on the front working really hard, but unfortunately right at this moment, two guys from the front of this chase group, someone drops a wheel and two guys go up the road, and those are the two guys that have been motoring and pulling this across. And that's the only chance, I think, of actually making it up to that front group. I'm still dying. Alistair's just done a mammoth turn to try to bring this back as much as he has. Canane gets on the front. Canane's doing well at the moment. He's the little guy in the red top, 2 wheels ahead of me. He puts in a big effort until he blows up. Robert Reed in the Keystone kit, he puts in another effort. Matthew Hewson, the newbie in B grade, he's going backwards. He's done some huge efforts. Alistair's dying on the wheel behind me. Again, he's done a huge amount of work. And when Robert flicks the elbow, I'm going to try to pull the turn. Because, I mean, this is D grade that we're passing. This isn't the front of the race. We slow up for a second, and I yell at everyone to keep going. Robert's done this massive turn. He pulls off. He's gone. And I do my last big dig to try to get back on the wheel of Justin Evans, number 21 up here. This guy's been chasing for a while by himself, but even so, he's still putting in some serious watts and making some progress. And he's closing this gap by himself. We're doing 45k an hour up the little hill here. There's a slight tailwind up the finish straight, but even so, he's doing a huge amount of work. At this stage, I am desperately hoping that I can get in a group and rest, but there's no groups. There's a group up the front that's winning this race. There's a group behind that's not doing anything anymore. I get on the front and give Justin basically everything that I've got left, which is barely over threshold. And I realised pretty quickly at this point that this is my last effort. So I figure I'll give it everything. Sit around 300 or 400 watts. And when I blow, I absolutely go. Back up at 190 beats a minute. Justin makes it. Justin keeps going. He actually makes it across, and he comes third on the day. So, there was another ticket to get across, and I just didn't have the fare to get on. So I blew up, but then right at this point, it all becomes a bit moot anyway, because my tyre went flat. Picked up a bit of glass from the supercars, and that was the end of my race. I missed a couple of tickets to the front of the race, even before the flat tyre, but the flat tyre gave me a handy excuse for not winning. Anyway, that one was an absolute smash fest. I loved every second of it, even when I was dying and bleeding from the eyeballs, and I can't wait to get back out there and do it again. See you next time.